I feel like this is my first album. Like, this is the first thing that I've said that's like, that I fully stand behind, like the good and the bad of it, because it's just, like, I've never been this transparent with myself or like with music. Like, I've never been behind myself this much.
A decade ago, Earl Sweatshirt released I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, an album that would redefine his artistic trajectory and solidify his reputation as one of hip-hop's most introspective voices. Dropped on March 23, 2015, with minimal promotion and an abrupt rollout, the project was a stark departure from the odd future-era brashness that had once defined him. Stripped down, deeply personal, and relentlessly bleak, the album was both a statement of independence and a manifestation of the internal struggles Earl faced at the time. Welcome back to Rap Pizza, your weekly slice of the freshest rap content delivered fresh to your feed. Today, we're celebrating 10 years of Earl Sweatshirt's iconic album, I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, and discussing the impact it had on the music industry, as well as how his career looks 10 years later. As always, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and pass it on to another hip-hop head. Now, with no further delay, let's talk Earl. Prior to I Don't Like Shit, Earl's career had already been one of myth-making and reinvention. His early teenage years were spent as Odd Future's prodigal son, a lyrical prodigy whose raw, boundary-pushing bars made his early mixtape, Earl, 2010, a cult classic. But his forced exile to a Samoan boarding school interrupted his rise, and when he returned with Doris, 2013, it was clear he had changed. Doris was more abstract, its production murkier, its themes heavier. Yet, even then, it was clear Earl was still finding his voice. I Don't Like Shit would mark the moment he fully stepped into it. The album was a critical success, praised for its uncompromising honesty and unique sonic palette. With production largely handled by Earl himself under the alias Random Black Dude, the beats were lo-fi, suffocating, and claustrophobic, matching the album's deeply introspective and isolated tone. The album featured sparse but meaningful contributions, including Vince Staples, Dash, and Wiki, all of whom fit seamlessly into the project's moody aesthetic. However, despite the critical acclaim, the rollout was marred by controversy. Earl expressed frustration with his label, Columbia Records, over what he described as a botched release strategy, lamenting how the album appeared on iTunes without proper preparation. This discontent foreshadowed his eventual split from major label backing, signaling a pivot toward a fully independent career. In hindsight, I Don't Like Shit stands as a turning point in Earl's evolution, both thematically and sonically. The album fully embraced minimalism and introspection, a stark contrast to the grander production of Doris. This stripped-down approach will become a hallmark of his later work, influencing projects like Some Rap Songs, 2018, and Sick, 2022. The latter albums took the abstract, fragmented production ethos hinted at on I Don't Like Shit and pushed it even further, making them even less accessible but critically adored in underground hip-hop circles. A decade later, the album still holds up as a defining moment in Earl's catalog. Its brevity, only 10 tracks across 30 minutes, feels ahead of its time, reflecting a modern streaming-era sensibility before it was fully embraced by the industry. Lyrically, the album remains one of his most personal and immediate, a raw look into grief, substance abuse, and disillusionment with fame. Compared to his current work, I Don't Like Shit feels more traditional in its structure, but retains the same themes of isolation and introspection that have defined his career. The scattered, jazz-infused production of his later work may be a departure from the more straightforward darkness of I Don't Like Shit, but the DNA is still there. Commercially, I Don't Like Shit was one of Earl's last moments in the mainstream spotlight before he fully committed to an underground path. While Doris had debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200, this album peaked at number 12, signaling a shift in Earl's audience toward a more niche but devoted fan base. His later projects, while critically lauded, would achieve even less commercial success, mirroring his move away from traditional industry structures. Where Some Rap Songs cemented him as a pioneer of avant-garde hip-hop, I Don't Like Shit was the bridge that led him there. Earl's career today is almost unrecognizable compared to where he stood in 2015. No longer attached to a major label, his music exists in a space free from commercial expectation, and his releases are dictated by artistic impulse rather than industry schedules. His live performances are more sporadic, his interviews rarer, and his presence on social media almost non-existent. And yet, his influence is felt stronger than ever. Artists like Mike, Medhane, and Navy Blue have clearly drawn inspiration from the lo-fi, soul-sampling textures Earl embraced in the post-I don't like shit era. Even more mainstream acts like JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown have, in some ways, mirrored his commitment to deconstructing rap's form and function. Looking back, I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside was more than just an album. It was a declaration of autonomy. It was the moment Earl Sweatshirt fully became himself, stepping away from the expectations placed upon him by fans, the industry, and his own past affiliations. While it may not be his most celebrated or revolutionary work, it remains a crucial chapter in his story, marking the moment when he turned inward and never looked back. A decade later, that decision still reverberates, both in his own music and in the wave of artists who followed his path. So what do you think? Is this album still in your rotation? Do you prefer the Earl that dives deeper into the strange and experimental? Or are you an old-school, odd future stan that preferred the old sound? Let us know in the comments. As always, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and pass it on to another hip-hop head. For now, it's peace out from Rap Pizza. We'll see you next week.